Welcome back, everyone, to the Michigan Trail Report, the show where we look at those who walked into the wild, sometimes never came back, and then became folk heroes. Yes, that is our topic today, as we explore 6 people, actually a few more than that, actually, but six episodes of folks who died in pursuit of their wilderness dreams. Mountaineers, survivalists, photographers. Their stories divide the outdoor community, sparking debates about hubris, risk, romanticism, and even turning some of these folks into folk heroes. So we're going to talk about 6 different people. We're going to open with probably the most famous of all, Chris McCandless, and we're going to close with Timothy Treadwell. And the inspiration for this podcast came from yours truly making a comment about Timothy Treadwell online, and it really sent people into orbit because apparently they have been romanticized with his story, and when I pointed out the truth, they didn't like it. So, let's see if we can fade out this music a little bit, and that's from Adam Main, as usual, my friend out of Kalamazoo, Michigan. He is happy to have you call him up and invite him out to play at your event, and I think that's pretty cool of Adam to do that. Okay, so let's get going with Chris McCandless. So he walked into the Alaskan backcountry in 1992, and 4 months later, he was dead. His story exploded when John Krakauer's Into the Wild hit the shelves, and this was a lyrical but flawed account that shaped Chris into either a hero or a fool, depending on who you ask. And by my tone, I think you can see where I'm going with this. So, you know, I'm a critic of Krakauer and his storytelling. It seems that he projects himself too much into these people. He especially did so, in my opinion, with McCandless. He softened Chris's inexperience and stupidity. He ignored more mundane factors like poor gear choices. The kid didn't even know how to smoke meat. He didn't know how to cross a river. And he didn't mention that Alaskans had been using that hunting bus for decades without incident. So the book, I recommend you read it. And there are some other resources out there. Carol Shull and Larry Shull's Back to the Wild presents Chris' actual journals and photos. It doesn't excuse his mistakes, but lets you see the young man directly, not just Krakauer's interpretation. The least favorite part about Krakauer's interpretation is that he died from poisoning from eating what he considers a potato seed relative. And if you dig a little deeper, do a little Googling, there are some native food forager people out there that really skewer Krakauer. It's a fun little adventure. I'm not really going to go into it. Maybe that'll be a whole separate podcast because there is a gob of information out there about why Krakauer's theory is just plain stupid. So the kid, he died of inexperience, and we will leave it at that. All right, next one, George Mallory and Andrew Irvine. Now this was back almost, actually I think it was 100 years ago. I think it was 1924. George Mallory and Andrew Irvine, they decided to climb Mount Everest and tried to be the first ones ever to summit it. Well, we will never know because they never came back. So it was assumed, of course, that they had died. Mallory's body was found in 1999, and it reignited the debate. Did they actually reach the summit before dying, before Hillary and Norgay accomplished this feat? Now, to some, Mallory is the ultimate tragic hero. He really embodied the romance of exploration. To others, he represents another reckless person with ambition, pushing with rudimentary gear and little oxygen. And I guess that was kind of the case back in the day. We really didn't have our gear down like we do here in the 21st century. So you can read a solid account. It is Wade Davis's Into the Silence, which places Mallory within the trauma of World War I and the imperial mindset of his generation. It's just not about Everest as well. It's about why they had to climb it. So Mallory's line, quote, "Because it's there, still inspires and infuriates in equal measure." So, it's like when we go on these adventures, these backpacking trips, and people are like, "Why are you doing this?" And just quote Mallory, say, "Because it's there," which is a great reason to do anything. All right, moving on. Rob Hall and Scott Fisher, yet another Krakauer story that has been implanted into our minds. So we're now in 1996. Rob Hall of Adventure Consultants and Scott Fisher of Mountain Madness, both very highly respected guides, perished in a storm on Everest. Now, their deaths became front-page news at the time and the subject of Krakauer's Into Thin Air. Now, here's the problem. Krakauer, he was there. He was on assignment for Outside magazine, and he was both participant and narrator of what was happening. And his book is gripping. It is an awesome read, don't get me wrong, but it is also deeply subjective. It's critical of Fisher, defensive of Hall, and often dismissive of the Sherpas, who are the real heroes of the story. I do recommend another book that a lot of people probably don't know about, and it's Anatoly Bokarev's The Climb, and it's co-written with G. Weston DeWalt. That book, I'm telling you, read Krakauer's book, digest it, and then come back to Anatoly's book. Maybe sometime later. I'll tell you, it will rock your world. It is so much different than what Krakauer wrote. So you'll see how each other's perception shifts with the point of view. And the debate. Well, were Hall and Fisher victims of bad luck or of a guiding industry driven by money, prestige, and summit fever? I lean heavily to Bokarev's account of the climb, and after reading Krakauer's these two books, I kind of I used to really like him, and after that, just like I don't know, man, I look at everything that he writes with a grain of salt. Speaking of Anatoly Bokarev, he died a year later. So he survived this Everest, because obviously he wrote a book about it, but he was swept away in an avalanche on Annapurna. So to some, he was always the consumable professional. He's fast, strong, deeply committed to his craft. Others, he was a minimalist, and he liked to climb without supplemental oxygen. And he liked to guide clients at a distance, which, up in these elevations is, it's reckless if you really think about it. So there's a biography on him written by Linda Wiley. It's called Above the Clouds, and it offers Bokarev's own reflections. It shows him wrestling with risk, responsibility, and, of course, the mountain's indifference. So his death cemented the tragic irony: a hero in one disaster, and he was lost in another. Let's see. Here we go. By the late 1990s, Alex Lowe was hailed as the best all-around climber alive. His charisma, his athleticism, his joy made him a larger-than-life figure. Unfortunately, in 1999, an avalanche on Shishapangama in Tibet killed him, while Conrad Anker, his close friend, survived. So, Jennifer Lowe Anker's memoir, Forget Me Not, blends Alex's letters with her own perspective, painting a portrait that's tender, painful, and honest. So, Alex's death still sparks debate. Was he simply unlucky, or is avalanche exposure the unacceptable gamble when you're out doing modern alpinism. Either way, his legend only grew after passing, as evidenced by all the gear named after him. Let's see, and finally, Timothy Treadwell. So I was on Facebook the other day, and somebody posted about, it was in a page, I think it was called Morbid Knowledge. It's basically how people died awfully. And Timothy Treadwell, he, for 13 summers, he lived among grizzlies in Katmai National Park, filming himself with the bears he claimed to have loved, and he understood them. Yeah, that guy, Timothy Treadwell. So, in 2003, he brought his partner Annie Hugenard out on a little camping expedition, and they were killed and eaten by a bear. The National Park Service's official report is blunt on this fact. However, people who hold him up as some sort of folk hero, they go into fits when you tell them that, when they quote-unquote found his body, I like to comment, they found it in the bear's stomach, and then they flip out because, he was eaten by a freaking bear. So, his supporters obviously contest it. They will argue that he was protecting the bears from poachers. Others that the tragic attack was an outlier, not proof of his recklessness. Go and read the National Park Service's official report. It's very factual, and it pretty much, you can read it and come up with your own story on that. So there was a documentary on him by Werner Herzog. It was called Grizzly Man. It leads heavily towards tragedy and obsession. But for a balanced read, consider The Grizzly Maze by Nick Jans. Jans explores Treadwell's charisma and his contradictions, and how he inspired some and infuriated others, and how he blurred the line between advocacy and, frankly, delusion. So, the divisive question, was Treadwell a visionary? Was he showing us, a connection to wild animals? Or is he a cautionary tale, proof that romanticizing wilderness can get you killed? And sometimes you can even take others with you. So, these stories like to spark conversations around the campfire. So consider that next time that, you're on a little foray out in the woods. Bring up some of these people and see if anybody, one, knows about them, two, and educate them about it, and three, maybe even have a philosophical discussion on whether what they were doing was right or wrong or whatever. All right, so maybe I'll do a deeper dive into Timothy Treadwell or Chris McCandless in the future. Tell me which one you want to hear about. I got lots of information on both. I know all about their stories from back in the day. I remember it all happening. I'm that old. So, well, except for Mallory. I'm not that old, okay? So, hey, thanks for joining me here on the podcast. Glad to have you. Thank you, Adam Main, for the music. And as always, visit tomfunk.net. Follow all the Facebook pages. Check out the bookstore, etc., so on and so forth. And thanks, guys. We will see you later.